Oh, let's see here. God damn it. There's that funky live guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil FB Network. YouTube, check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire. On that, you'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. Check out our archives. Fact check us, do all you want. Let's get it on. We have lots to go for. New midget, 5 days and 5 races out in the Midwest for the USAC National Midget Tour. As when you come into summertime, racing is going on 7 days a week somewhere across this whole country. And with the advent of flow racing, dirt vision, ETAL, we get to see it all the time. I mean, I remember, if you didn't see live racing at a track, you didn't see it, other than the Wide World of Sports tape delayed or partial coverage. Modern technology. Good pieces and bad pieces to it. But, as we say, we shall see. Gavin Newsom is a political news tightening on Gavin Newsom. OMG asks, what should we investigate next? We'll probe into that. Bill Asaley, U.S. Attorney, out here in California, just popped Operation Hardball. We'll give you the details here in a few. John Copal will be on, hopefully at the bottom of the hour. We'll get to all the inside info. He was a man on the point with how we got to the Save Prop 13 Act and Prop 43 on the ballot. Nothing like going to the source. But, as we usually do, lead story of the day. Massive bear breaks into a motel room inside while guests are inside. Don't necessarily. Something maybe a little sus on this whole thing, but here we go with the KTLA 5 report.
Look at this viral video out of Tibet. China's state media is reporting a hotel guest got an unexpected wake-up call after a Tibetan brown bear wandered inside. State media claims the bear drank bottled water in the lobby before briefly entering a guest's room. Video shows the bear opening the door, peeking inside, then backing out and leaving the hotel. No one was injured, but the bear did cause some minor damage to the hotel. This seems
wow. It seems like a person. It seems like it's a person in a bear suit. I mean, he looks very smart, like he knows what he's looking for. He knows what he's doing.
So the KTLA reporterettes saying, that looks like a man in a bear suit. He looks like he knows what he's doing. Again, the whole thing is sus, but hey, it could be a bear. Could be a man in a bear suit. Inquiring minds want to know. Women crashes into IE Planet Fitness in the Inland Empire during a medical emergency. Pray tell. We'll see if she plays. Here we go.
Amazing that all things considered, besides the person who was behind the wheel of this car, who apparently had a medical emergency, amazing that no one else got hurt. You can see her car went beyond those two standards there and right into the front door of this Planet Fitness and ended up about 30 feet inside. We got cell phone video from someone who was inside showing some of the frantic moments after that happened.
Inside? The thing's clear inside the Planet Fitness. It isn't like, you know, oh, you bumped in there, man. She must have been on the gas. Of course, medical emergency. I guess, you know, your foot could fall completely. Must have been throttled up to get that deep into the Planet Fitness. But that here's more from the ABC 7 report.
Again, you can see one of the people in there having to use a dumbbell to break the glass to get that woman out of there. We're told by a witness that she's in her mid-40s. Again, CAL FIRE, Riverside County Fire, saying she suffered a medical emergency, but no one else, amazingly, was hurt. And also pretty amazing, they say they're going to be open within the next couple of hours.
So to get that far in, and especially nobody got hurt, well, for a lot of reasons. Royism 101. Worst place to get in shape is in a gym. Not counting somebody driving their car clear through. Mid-40s medical emergency, not saying that it can't, obviously did happen. That's highly unusual in the case for that happening. But good thing nobody else was injured. I hope the driver of the car fully recovers from that situation. What should we investigate next? That's what James O'Keefe Media Group asked as they were touring out in front of Freedom 250 on July 4th. The District of Criminals. Here we go.
Progressives who hate America and don't want to be here, and yet they so are. And then you have those on the left who are your more JFK Democrats. And, you know, as Republicans, those are the types of Democrats. So, yeah, you're welcome to be in America. If you hate America, leave. If you don't want to be here, if you want to burn this place down, go.
There are no more JFK Democrats. JFK Democrats are a thing of the past. Most of them in the 80s when Reagan came in moved to the Republican Party or declined to state in that because they were tired of the crapiola, the KKK, the racist roots, and today of the Democratic Party. The most racist party, political group, movement we've had in the history of human mankind. We can go through the Southern Poverty Law Center and everything. They're the ones that have been stirring up this trouble even today, even after they were exposed as the leaders of the Ku Klux Klan and slave owners and kept blacks and others into slavery. The Democratic Party, and they're still doing it today. With the racist stuff, that's why they want illegal immigration. So they can have the 21st century slaves and say, oh, we're compassionate for you on the emotional BS. We cannot run on 147% emotion. It will destroy society. But here's more with James O'Keefe. And what should we investigate next?
Who else we don't want you?
I think rooting out bad apples and Homeland Security.
Homeland Security.
Yeah. Anywhere.
Yeah, we'd do the Pentagon, Homeland Security, the Los Angeles people giving money to homeless to vote. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
The deep state.
Homeland Security giving money to homeless vagrants to vote, stealing elections from the Democratic Party establishment. At Freedom 250, July 4th at the District Criminals, here's James O'Keefe interviewing more on what they want investigated.
Hey, the way they've been lying to us as long as we've all been alive.
The deep state.
We have no idea. The whole Federal Reserve, the taxes, everything. It's horrible, man.
Yeah, whether it's government.
Federal Reserve, taxes, the deep state, the establishment, the crooks and thieves, led by the establishment of the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party. You can see the racist rant from Bill Clinton to Barack Obama that they just released. What do we want investigated? Here we go.
Government spending, local government spending of where, like say even in California right now where they don't know where what, $500 million? Is that?
It's like $50 billion just in the unemployment fraud. Gavin Newsom gave away of our money. And the other 49 states that are having kicking in and doing this, paying for it, $50 billion freaking dollars, because Gavin Newsom didn't want to deal with his failure of an administration, his failure of a government. The Democratic Party, which should rule 75% in our legislature and every government office in the state, has failed, and they didn't want to take the BS for their actions of unemployment department. The part that they've let the employees go on, that they can't figure anything out, they didn't know, so he just walked in and said, approve everything, I don't want the negative publicity. $50 billion frickin' dollars down the frickin' toilet. When do we stand up? Are you going to vote for that racist Javier Baccaria that sent 500,000 kids into sex and labor slavery? If you do, you are the evilest people in the world. And if you don't think so, come in here and prove me wrong. Here's one.
They were putting towards homelessness?
Missing money.
Yeah.
Who do you think needs to be exposed?
That's it, the fraud. You know, let's bring light. The foundation of this country is so sacred to the freedom of a human being on this earth, right? It took a lot of evolution and time for that to be written, and we've got something that's a structure that's in place that's good for all of humanity. It needs to be protected. People that are trying to cover that up with lies and shift it into something else that needs to be exposed. And the truth, when you expose it, it's a no-brainer, right? So
there's so much fraud.
Back in my hometown.
Stop the fraud. Stop the lying. Get back to the principles of 1776 when the greatest men in the history of the world said, no, we're going to build the best opportunity for everyone. We're going to tell King George to stuff it up his frickin' ass. How many of you got the balls to do that today? Not very many. Start growing a pair. Especially you and the men in the retarded half the population. Quit cutting off your frickin' nuts and hiding in the corner. Or not talking with your buddies. Get in the game! Get in the game and start doing some action. Not sitting there saying, please don't hurt me.
Virginia, we're seeing a lot of local corruption, the local administration. With our Turning Point chapter, the school board has tried to shut us down time and time again, but now sex scandals are coming out from this very same school board. Perversion with little children in elementary school.
Sex scandals.
Sex scandals from the same people that try to shut down our Turning Point chapter.
What needs to...
School boards, teachers who want to shut down a constitutional right to freedom of speech, right to redress your government, and point out the absolute evil teachers have been doing to our kids for 30 or 40 plus frickin' years. Making your kids stupid. I mean, vaya caramba.
Be exposed more than anything else.
Shit. It's like, oh, dude, don't put me on the spotlight.
Everyone's got a story to report on, so I ask people this question.
Due to my job, I can't really say.
Okay, you can't say due to this job. Fair enough. That's why we got to bring out the hidden camera later.
Absolutely, yeah. You're doing God's work.
All right, nice to see you.
He said, well, I can't really explain what's going on here or what we're doing, but you're doing God's work. James O'Keefe and all of us who are pointing out what's going on. I really can't say, well, we'll get into why here in a second.
Thanks. Well, what type of work are you in, without specifically? Just the nature of the work. Government? Government?
Yeah, government.
Government, okay. All right. Yeah, so we're at
A government employee who's telling James O'Keefe, you're doing God's work. That says it all.
asking people a lot of questions like what they want to see exposed. And what's interesting is people don't want to say out loud what they want exposed.
You've got men. You and the retarded half the population. Oh, James O'Keefe is calling you out. I am calling you out. You are too frickin' afraid to be a man. You should take your penis and your testicles and saw them off and put a vagina in there. If you're not willing to go down to your school board or your city council and protect your kids from this tyranny or your family from this stupidity, then you do not deserve to have a penis and a set of testicles attached to your body. Because that's not what you were put on this frickin' earth to do. It's not to say, oh, please don't hurt me. Your job was to get out there and lead the charge against stupidity. This story of Gavin Newsom giving away, pointing a gun at all of us and taking $50 billion and flushing it down the frickin' toilet. That's just on the unemployment fraud and everything else. Get in the game. It is what you were on this planet for. Don't be hiding in the corner cowering. We'll get into this and much more. We'll have John Capal on, president of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, when we join the Mighty Met KMET. Get into the particulars on how we got to Prop 43 and how we can solve some of this tyranny that's been going on far too long on the rest of today's show. Another absolute idiotic thing, education. We've been getting rib talk about fraud. Linda McMahon, our Secretary of Education, hopefully here we are, more than a year into the Trump administration, we still haven't shut that albatross. Ghost student scammers.
Called ghost students. These are alleged scammers who enroll in college in order to steal financial aid. David Spunts on that, Washington, D.C. How big of an issue is this? David.
Well, Bill, and they have no intention of actually getting a degree. From the anti-fraud task force run out of the White House to the fraud unit inside the DOJ, stopping fraud is a priority for the administration. Today, Education Department officials will get their turn in the spotlight. The Office of Inspector General is confronting the problem at the Higher Education Fraud Summit going on now. The problem the department is trying to combat, as you mentioned, the ghost students, the students who enroll only to steal financial aid with no intention of actually getting a degree. It's costing taxpayers tens of millions, if not more. Artificial intelligence, of course, AI, only accelerating the schemes by making them harder to detect. It's making the fraud more sophisticated and quick. But education leaders promise, Bill, that they are working to stop this alleged fraud. Education Secretary Linda McMahon was brought in to eventually close down the Education Department, giving the responsibilities back to the states. And while she's slowly closing down the department, there is much work to be done, she says. Watch. Well, case in point, I should say, the free application.
Probably by the end of this calendar year, we would have saved about $2 billion. Wow. That's a lot of money. And I serve on the Vice President's a fraud task force. Right. Every agency is charged with finding fraud, and we're all working incredibly hard to save taxpayer dollars.
And I should say that she was talking about FAFSA, which is the fraud application for financial aid. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche over at the Justice Department has also prioritized fraud bill. His hearing to be the full-time Attorney General is scheduled for next week.
Okay,
Bill.
all right, we'll track that.
How much more of this are we going to take? Shut the frickin' Federal Department of Education down. Get rid of it, junk it. Our education system will flourish if we get rid of this albatross hanging around our neck. Since Jimmy Carter put this in 79, Reagan campaigned in 80 to get rid of it, could not do it. We're still 40 plus frickin' years later dealing with the ripoff. It's not about education. They're not helping your kids. They're slowly taking away their future. So political news tightening on Gulag Gavin Newsom. Dana the Hammer Williamson, his former chief of staff, was supposed to be sentenced this week. Now it's moved to September. You think a deal's a brewing? Here's the latest from KCRA3 and the great Ashley Zavala. Here we go.
It's been 3 weeks since Governor Gavin Newsom announced the U.S. Department of Justice has been investigating him and his wife. The governor said investigators contacted about a dozen family, friends, and associates.
And law enforcement sources have said there are multiple investigations underway involving people associated with the governor. Of course, our political director, Ashley Zavala, has been digging into this, following up on this. So what are you hearing, Ashley?
Yeah, again, I mean, it's been 3 weeks. As of today, neither the governor nor first partner have been served subpoenas. Also, they have not been contacted for interviews by federal investigators.
First, the great Ashley Zavala, it's wifey Jenny Poo is how she is supposed to be identified. There's no such thing as a first partner. Why do we get in, hopefully we get into the war against a straight white male later on in the week. Please don't contribute to this, Ash. Here we go.
Investigators, all of this according to the governor's office today. Now, at this point, we're getting radio silence from the organizations associated with the Newsoms. Now, just to recap, again, 3 weeks ago, the governor said that he and his wife were under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice. The governor's office last month said they believed federal authorities subpoenaed the banks used by organizations and businesses the governor and his wife oversee. Last month, law enforcement sources unauthorized to speak publicly about this told us there are multiple investigations. One related to the tax activity involving Siebel Newsom's nonprofit organizations. Another is apparently related to staff in the governor's office, including Newsom's ex-chief of staff, Dana Williamson.
Again, can't say 100%. Why was Dana the Hammer's sentence postponed from Thursday to September? Can you say state's evidence? Here we go.
Department of Justice isn't commenting on any of this. So over the last several weeks, I've reached out repeatedly to the First Partners nonprofits to see if they've been contacted by federal investigators. That includes the Representation Project and the California Partners Project. We got no response. I also reached out to the Protocol Foundation, which raises money for the governor's office to travel and do other activities the governor does not want taxpayers funding. No response from that group either. Considering he has said he expects to be subpoenaed, for weeks I have been repeatedly asking if the Newsoms have hired their own attorney yet. I'm still waiting for that answer, again, 3 weeks later.
Okay, so Newsom's chief...
Oh, we'll know when that comes, when the Legal Defense Fund rolls out. Although he's only got like 6 months to do it. I don't know, maybe you can do a legal defense fund when you're out of office. That's a whole thing that needs to be cleaned up too, but here we go. Let's get more of the update from KCRA 3 team and Ashley Zavala.
Chief of Staff Dana Williamson has been facing federal charges. Of course, we saw headlines last week about one of the co-conspirators in this case against her reportedly wore a wire and may be involved in these investigations, the person who wore the wire. So what are you hearing about all of that?
Right, that co-conspirator, her name is Alexis Podesta. She is a Sacramento-based political consultant. We know she cooperated with federal investigators based on court records, specifically in the investigation into Newsom's chief of staff, Dana Williamson. Now, Newsom's office is saying there is no evidence that the alleged use of a wire on Podesta is in any way connected to the governor. Now, I texted with Podesta's attorney today, Bill Portanova. This afternoon, we spoke briefly. He told me right now he has no comment on any of this. So that's where we're at.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
We'll
still waiting for.
No comments, postponements of the court cases. I think troubles are brewing for Gavi and Jenny Poo. We shall see what transpires in the days moving forward. Bill Asaley, our U.S. attorney out here in California, and crew, today, as part of Operation Hardball, unsealed indictments charging 37 defendants linked to 3 India-based criminal syndicates in 3 separate indictments. Let's look at some of the stuff. Providing for drugs, as you see lined up there. Transporting between Canada and here. As you see some of that rolling out, guns and weapons from the cartel gang members, as Bill Asaley put it out there on the X machine and others. These defendants, including 2 crime bosses already imprisoned in India, are charged with racketeering, conspiracy, extortion, trafficking bulk quantities of cocaine by semi-trucks, and murder, including a June 23rd assassination of a political and religious figure as he left the Shiite temple in broad daylight in Canada. Victims of these transitional criminal syndicates, which include members of the Indian Dispersiosa, some in the Los Angeles area, have extorted and threatened by these criminals who use their notoriety for violence to make money. And another cash cow was drug trafficking, including shipping cocaine and other narcotics stolen from rival crews from the U.S. into Canada. These ruthless criminals spread misery. Worldwide law enforcement agencies will continue to coordinate globally to combat them wherever they are. Good arrest from Bill Asaley and crew from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Looking forward to more criminality. The whole climate con. Global warming is a hoax. Hurricane Louise. I've been tracking this for months. You've got the weather channels on, on TV, you pop it up. And then you got others like Doppler radar if you do your thing. So consistently, if you just hit the regular weather forecasts, of course, we've got this, oh, we're all going to burn up here in Southern California and across the world. Baloney. But I've been noticing that you hit the Weather Channel, and they are consistently every day 3 degrees hotter. This has been going on for months than the regular weather forecast. Here's the chart as you see across the top. Let's start with Sunday of this week, 88 degrees on the regular forecast, the Weather Channel 91. 90 degrees, 91 Saturday, 94. And you look all through the week consistently every day. That could not be a coincidence. Every day, the Weather Channel is 3 degrees hotter. Now, the Weather Channel goes across all out to everybody. Again, I've been tracking this for months, and it's every day. They're always high, low, 10-day forecast, 30-day forecast. It's like, oh, this can't be, I don't see how it could be a coincidence. Somebody's put in there, okay, we're just going to jack up the temperatures 3 degrees across the board every day. Well, oh, the average temperature in the world, we're going to explode. Hurricane Louise, they are conning you with the global warming and everything else. Love you, Hurricane Louise. But please don't get buy into the BS. And here's the proof. Evidence. We bring evidence and documentation and back up to what we say. We don't take people's word for it. We follow the Reagan doctrine. As he kicked the ass out of the Soviet Union, Russians, Gorbachev, trust, but verify. Oh yeah, there's global warming and all this. Well, let's verify that. No, who's getting rich off of this? Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Bill Gates, and a whole host of other China with the whole, oh, we're going to do solar and wind. Look at just what's going down there in Boyle Heights. Nobody's talking about how we're all going to die from the fire and the chemicals coming off the solar plants. And no, we want to put these out. We want to put, oh, we put 10 acres. Oh, all these warehouses, let's put them on. You are absolutely stupid. The parking garages, City of Marina Valley, the crime syndicate. Rows and rows and rows of these things. It's bad enough you got a few on a house. Well, if that goes off, well, it's not going to necessarily hurt anything. But when you got 2 acres, 10 acres, 50 acres of these things and they light off and you can't put them out, on top of the environmental damage they do, and they're jacking the electricity rates up so high, like in Germany and France and other places, people are dying because they can't afford the electricity to run the air conditioner. They're dying of heat prostration. Love your Hurricane Louise, but do not buy the bull S. Do not run on emotion. Run on the facts. Hopefully we'll get John Copal. We haven't had him on in a while. President of HJTA. We'll get to all this. How we got to Prop 43 being on the ballot. Save Prop 13, fix some of the tax ills, and everything else we got going on. And maybe we'll get into some of these propositions because it is kind of of course, government can take something simple and make a convoluted mess. out of anything. But hopefully we'll get some direction from one of the most trusted guys in California, John Coppell.
Thank you for calling.
As we rock and roll here on the rest of this absolutely fabulous today's
Okay,
show.
30 seconds, Roy.
30 seconds?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can fill that. You'll have to help me out here, Sean.
John's waiting on the line.
We'll have John. We'll get to that. How we got to Prop 43, and maybe some of these propositions and everything else that's on the ballot. Of course, again,
all right, here we go. 10 seconds.
For those who support America, patriotswitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Med 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience on the Evil FB Network YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire. You'll see my nice smiling, shining face. Lots of stuff going on. Bears rolling into people's motel rooms. Cars crashing into the gym. Which is why I don't go to the gym, because I might get run over by a car. Oh, lots of other stuff. Department of Education, the fraud that's been going on in there. OMGS, what do you want investigated? Hey, quit picking our pockets. Man, it's about time. Getting to that picking our pockets, we've been, Lord knows if you're a California resident, you've been on that train for a long, long, long time. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, 50 plus years, started Prop 13, reason most of us still have a home to live into. Of that, we've been fighting. They've been the #1 organization protecting taxpayers in California, and that job hasn't stopped. We have on the line the El Presidente of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, John Coppell. Welcome to IE Newswire, Leroy.
Hey, Roy. How are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. I'm doing better than what it was. Last week was a roller coaster. We're hearing, okay, Prop 13, say Prop 13 acts on the ballot. Then Buffoon Bass comes on. Hey, it's getting off the ballot. Then were the negotiations going on. You absolutely were the point man on that. And I'm glad you were, because I really wouldn't trust anybody else but myself to do that. We got to that. We finally got Prop 43 on the ballot after all the signatures and everything. Tell us where we're at today, John Coppell.
Well, we're in a very good place, because what we've got on the ballot is the Local Taxpayer Protection Act, a slightly different version than we had before, but it is a clean restoration of a core principle of Proposition 13, which is the 2/3 vote requirement for local special taxes. That was part of Prop 13 that voters overwhelmingly approved back in 1978, and as you know, over time, the courts and the progressives tried to weaken Prop 13 through all kinds of means. We have been very successful in defending against that, and most of the loopholes created in Proposition 13 came not from elected officials, but from the courts. Unelected judges who, for whatever reason, and it's much worse now than it used to be, the California judiciary has now trended very significantly to the left side of the political spectrum. And so they have punched all kinds of loopholes in Prop 13, and we've had to come back, as you know, in subsequent years, in 1986 and 1996, and beyond that, to close the loophole. So what we've got, Prop 43 on the ballot this November, we have something on the ballot. There is, somebody said, well, when the legislature capitulated, does that mean that they write the law? No. It means that they agreed to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot that gives us what we want, which is a full restoration of the two-thirds vote requirement. In addition, there was a poison pill also on the ballot as a proposed constitutional amendment, was put on there by the legislature. It was a direct target against our Local Taxpayer Protection Act. It had a convoluted rule that said if you are going to impose the supermajority requirement in any place in the California Constitution applicable to local government, then that initiative has to pass by the same margin. Well, that's ridiculous because that would mean that our Local Taxpayer Protection Act would have to pass statewide by a two-thirds vote, and not even Prop 13 did that. So the whole point of their ACA 13 was to try to be a poison pill against our initiative. And we said, look, as part of this negotiation, you need to take ACA 13 off the ballot. And they did. And then we said, oh, and by the way, you have to give control over the ballot arguments to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And they agreed to do that. So the reporting in the political media, Roy, was we don't know how Howard Jarvis did this, but they pulled off a coup in getting the legislature to back down on some of the things it wanted to do. So anyway, all's well that ends well, but it hasn't ended. I think it will end well because I think we're going to win in November. But the Local Taxpayer Protection Act will be on the ballot in November. It just needs a simple majority of the statewide electorate, and it will, for once and for all, close that loophole that they created in Proposition 13 again. And once again, all local special taxes will require a two-thirds vote of the electorate. It's that simple.
So I want to go to Carl tomorrow, the Assemblyman, Jeremy White from Politico, John Flashman, Flash Report have all alluded or reported on this. But you can confirm it or deny it. Gavin Newsom, or the report is Gavin Newsom and his goons came to you and said basically, hey, we need to get this up. We're drying up your supporters. We're trying to get them to switch or even go against you. There was at least there's been a lot of reports. There was threats, political threats to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association if they didn't completely basically remove this from the ballot or got it to a point where it was absolutely useless. What say you, John Coppell? What kind of barriers were they throwing at you and up to you last Thursday?
Yeah, absolutely. There were definitely threats. Not against us so much because, quite frankly, as a grassroots organization, our strength is in our citizen taxpayers, and we're not going to fold on behalf and defense of our members. But they were threatening some of the major funders of the initiative who were mostly commercial property owners in the city of Los Angeles who wanted relief from that ULA tax, the real estate transfer tax. That is a punishing tax, 4% or 5.5%, depending on the value of the property. It's a tax that kicked in at $4 million. If you sold property with $4 million, it would be subject to this tax. And obviously, I'm not going to say that none of our members would be affected by that. We oppose the ULA tax, even though very few of our citizen taxpayers were impacted by it. But look, we all buy groceries. We all go to stores. So we were more than willing to go to bat and try to provide relief against these real estate transfer taxes. Unfortunately, some of the major supporters of ours they were willing to settle for a very weak reform of real estate transfer tax. It was weak in this regard, Roy. They would have settled for a statutory fix. In other words, just a statute, not a constitutional amendment. And I respectfully suggested to them, if you're willing to settle for just a statute, not a constitutional amendment, you are buying what we call a pig in a poke, and that is you will be fooled. They will reverse it, and they didn't care. They said, look, we agree with the governor. We think you should take it off. I said no, and as of the night before the deadline, I told them no, heck no. And then the following morning at 5 a.m., after talking to all our allies, I said no again. And then I headed off for a camping trip. But about an hour later, I got a phone call saying they're willing to capitulate. They're going to give you everything you want. So I said, okay, let's do it. So we had to get all the paperwork in by 5 p.m. on Thursday. This is 2 weeks ago. And we got it done. And unfortunately, the people who were threatening us, and I'll be very specific about the threat, Roy, they threatened to spend $10 million against us on a measure that they had previously supported. And I just thought, first of all, that was not very smart politically. They should know that the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association does not fold to any threats. And secondly, they're kind of cutting off their nose to spite their face. So that's behind us. They did not get the relief they wanted. If they want to pursue relief against that ULA tax, I would be more than willing to help them. I don't carry a grudge against anybody. I want good tax policy in the state of California, and good tax policy would include providing some relief against this ULA tax, which, by the way, Karen Bass recognizes that tax has inflicted extraordinary damage on the real estate market in the city of Los Angeles. So we remain ready, willing, and able to help with anybody for tax relief in California. But right now, our number one goal, Roy, is to pass the Local Taxpayer Protection Act. It's on the ballot in November. It's Prop 43. We could sure use the support. People can go to saveprop13.com, saveprop13.com, and learn all about it. And we could use some small dollar donors to get door hangers out, lawn signs, and we are paying for radio. We're going to have a pretty robust statewide radio campaign. Don't have the funds for TV, at least not yet, but we think we used this model for the campaign the same way we used it against Prop 5 the last election cycle, and we beat Prop 5. That would have lowered the two-thirds vote for certain local bonds, and we were outspent 10-1, and we beat it by 10 points. So we are not extremely well funded. We love the support from our members, but we are very potent when it comes to standing up for the California taxpayer.
I'm glad it worked out this way, because I usually have Susan Shelley on every Wednesday, but I run this by her. Where I want to see it go, and hopefully maybe in 28 we'll see how this, hopefully 43 passes. What I want to see is we need to put back on a constitutional amendment. Two-thirds vote, no matter what. If you're raising any kind of revenue, tax fee, ironclad, no more of this, we need to sew it up because we went through 50 years and we're battling. I think it's just my contention that we need to do that, and probably in 28. But I'm glad we went through this process, because we kind of smoked out what their strategy is. So that gives us, if we want to move forward with something like that in the future, now we at least know where the battle lines are, John.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the other thing to remember, as much as I would like really, really comprehensive tax reform, remember that 4 years ago we had the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act that did a lot of things, including required a statewide vote for all state tax increases. And as you recall, after spending well over $10 million qualifying that initiative, the governor and the legislature sued to have it taken off the ballot, and the California Supreme Court, in fact, took a duly qualified initiative right off the ballot, which was the biggest transgression. It was contrary to all the existing case law. It was so outrageous that Wall Street Journal the next day had a editorial entitled "Democracy Dies in California." So what we've had to do is we've had to come back, unfortunately, in kind of smaller bites, identify one target, one or two targets, and get relief there instead of doing maybe like 8 things. So, but that is our strategy. And quite frankly, Roy, if that's what it takes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take these key issues to protect taxpayers and put them on the ballot. And by the way, some of the other stuff that we're working on is going to help. Carl DeMaio has been at the forefront of the voter ID. If we have voter ID, that's going to help taxpayers because you're going to have that's going to weed out a lot of fake voters. So I think we need to press forward on all fronts. Conservatives in the state of California, whether it's education reform, criminal justice, taxes, election integrity, we need to stick together and continue to move the agenda forward. We're going to lose some, we're going to win some, but I think at the end of the day, I think California voters are so fed up that I sense the tide, a turn in the tide is coming.
We're talking with John Coppell, president of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We got about 5 minutes left. Props 40, 41, and 42 are kind of confusing. You got one's billionaire's tax, a poison pill against it, and competing measures if one passes or something. In the few minutes we got left, can you kind of decode a little bit of that or where you guys are going to stand on those 3 measures?
Well, first of all, the billionaire's tax, the wealth tax, number one, it's unconstitutional. I think there are about 4 or 5 constitutional arguments against it. It's already had a devastating effect, even though there hasn't been a single vote cast on it. It has resulted in a handful, 4 to 6 billionaires moving out of state. But when they leave, that leaves a huge hole in the state budget. And I don't understand why these progressive socialists, Marxists, don't understand that you cannot bite the hand that feeds you. And so we will absolutely oppose that measure. We will end up supporting it. We haven't taken official positions, but some of these poison pills that the very wealthy individuals have proposed as a poison pill against the wealth tax, we'll probably end up supporting those because, this is a little bit of gamesmanship, but you got to play the game. You're either at the table or you're on the menu. And so we will do anything we can do to push back against the far left progressive socialist interests in the state of California.
Got about a minute left. Give them your best pitch on why there should be a yes, yes, yes on Prop 43. Go.
Yeah, yes on Prop 43. It restores Proposition 13 to its original language and its original intent, requiring a 2/3 vote for local special taxes. That was taken away by an outrageous court decision, and we look forward to the support. People need to go to hjta.org or saveprop13.com to get more information.
Thanks for being on, John. I'll get it out. We'll do it again soon.
Take care, Roy.
You got it. John Coppell, president of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We'll get him back on. We'll get into Props 2 and 3 and as they solidify on these 41 and 42s, because, there's going to be yeses and nos on this whole thing. He mentioned voter ID. That's going to be a big key moving forward. We want voter ID. We want honest elections. One man, one vote. That's going to be a very key position. And Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and Reform California, Carl DeMaio's group, worked hand in hand on getting both propositions to save for Prop 43 and 39 on the ballot for us taxpayers. And that's the kind of cooperation, and now we know we have more of a platform on how we need to proceed to get things on the ballot, to use our constitutional forefront that Hiram Johnson gave us 100 years ago, that we can put stuff on the ballot when our government gets too far out of control. Second thing, we need to knock down the 75% legislature in the Assembly, in the Senate. It gives them, they can override the veto. Even if, let's just say on America of All Miracles, Steve Hilton gets in as governor. They can leave 7 votes on the table and 3 in the Senate and still override a governor's veto. So we got a lot of work to do. We got to pick up 7 along with, and Riverside County is going to be very key to this. We got 3 seats we got to hold or partially in them. Leticia Castillo in 58, which is Corona Riverside. Jeff Gonzalez, which is down in the lower desert and Imperial County, going through the Salton Sea down into, into Imperial, Brawley, and all that. Those seats, they're first-year incumbents, and they're coming after them. Greg Wallace out here, which is a lot of the northern part of the lower desert Palm Springs area and into the North Redlands area of San Bernardino County. They've come after that seat. He's just barely won that by a few votes, the last 2 elections that he's held it. Then we got Ed Delgado versus Corey Jackson. We need to hold those. And then we need to pick up the seat AD 60, which is Moreno Valley, Paris, San Jacinto, parts of Hemet, Romaland, Nuevo. In that area, we have a great opportunity to get Ed Delgado, former assistant sheriff, Moreno Valley, current Moreno Valley city councilman, to pick up that seat. That would be one of the 7 we need to move forward. And that's just to get below a supermajority. That's just to get below a veto proof on the governor's office. So we've got a lot of work ahead. I think we'll, very confident we'll win voter ID, Prop 39, Prop 43 here in the coming elections. Hopefully we'll knock out Prop 40, the billionaire's tax, which there's poison pills into that. They're coming after you. Props 2 and 3 are other tax increase or measures made to get you, pick your pocket. Hopefully we'll have John Coppell of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association on later on to, as we solidify and all that, and like the whole 40, 41, and 42 is going to be some yeses and nos. No on 40, probably yes on the poison pills, 41 and 42, so that doesn't happen. Because ultimately they're going to be picking our pockets on this stuff. And it's like, we've got very few organizations, Reform California, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, that are looking out for us. And are getting the job done and doing the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts work. But it's up to us to start working on our city councils and our school boards. There's going to be a runoff elections in Riverside. Ward 4, Chuck Conder, the incumbent. Ward 2, I believe. Yes, Ward 2. It's going to be Gracie Torres versus AA. That's an open seat. 6, Hernandez already. He got 50% plus 1, so that's over. But most all your school boards. Duffy Atkinson's going to be running against Dr. Airhead down there at RUSDU. We've got 3 open seats here in the Moreno Valley Unified School District, or the Crime Syndicate as I call it. Brandy Clark, Sammy Luna, and Justin Jackson. We can flip the majority in our school boards. We can flip the majority. We did, thanks to my advocacy in the 2-year mayor deal when we passed that over 12 years ago. We can, every 2 years, we can flip the majority of the city council in Moreno Valley. Ulysses Baby Jesus Cabrera is up for mayor, along with Shaylinda Bernard. And Ed Delgado's seat, since he's running for assembly, is going to be open. So districts 2 and 4 are going to be on the ballot along with the mayor's seat. So again, if you don't want boys and men and girls and women's sports and locker rooms and bathrooms, you need to get off your dead freaking asses and get out there and get in the game. Not hacking on your computer, not watching the tube. Get in the ball game. You need to have your asses down at the city council, in the school boards. You need to be volunteering for campaigns, getting your neighbors. Hold a coffee. Just bring up conversations when you're sitting in the grocery store line or the Costco or the bank or wherever. Or, just lean over if you're sitting over there at the local eatery or bar and lean over and say, hey. If you never say anything, the answer is always no. If somebody doesn't want to talk to you, that's fine. But you'd be surprised. Quit sitting there and it just drives me nuts. Everybody's sitting, 6 people in their line at the grocery store. Nobody's saying a thing. They're looking at you know what they're looking at. Not only are we doing a disservice to ourselves, we're just doing an extreme disservice to the next generations that are coming up that are going to pay the real consequences of doing that. We need to get them in the ball game, get them away from the 3x5 screen, get them out there doing activities like dodgeball, racing quarter midgets or motorcycles, or playing football in the field or out in the streets or something. Let's get rid of this idiocracy we've been doing. Get back in the ball game like those dudes did a little over 250 years ago. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, mandatory, you're back here in 24 hours. Why? You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
The preceding was a paid program.
All right, Roy. Do you have a meeting tonight, or?
No, we're good. Well, the city of Moreno Valley's taken like 87 weeks off. They won't be back till August. I think there's 1 or 2 school board meetings.
Oh,
but yeah, the city of Moreno Valley. They think they're in school. In fact, I think they get more time on vacation than the schools do now, which is absolutely criminal. But
wow,
that's why you should be down at your local city council or school board telling them, hey, not no, but hell no. They're ruining us all across the board.
wow. All right, I will talk to you at the end of the week.
You got it.